Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. It has been a minute since I have filmed anything, so welcome back. I first of all just want to address that I'm getting over a cold right now, so if I sound kind of congested, that's why. And my throat is kind of hurting right now, so I'm gonna try to power through. But I wanted to film this video for you guys because I've just been meaning to put something up for a long time now. Like, it's been a month, I think, since I've uploaded. Today I'm going to be giving more advice for first-time horse owners, and this is specifically going to be directed towards people that are like debating whether or not they should buy their first horse, because I say this all the time, but owning a horse is a big deal. It's a lot of responsibility, and you really want to make sure that you're ready for that commitment before you purchase a horse. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a thumbs up, and also make sure you're subscribed, and let's just get into the video. Tip number one is make sure that you are comfortable with where you're at in your riding. Don't rush into, making a rash decision. You really want to take the time to really think about if you're ready for a commitment like this. You really want to make sure that, first of all, you can afford it. You want to make sure that you have the time for it, and that this is something you are really passionate about. Because if you have only just started riding, in the last couple of months, and you're like, I want a horse. Personally, and I'll get into this in another piece of advice later on, but I would really recommend just holding off until you have ridden a little bit longer. Things can change over time. You could lose interest in the sport, and then if that happens, you're stuck with a horse that you don't even ride. So it's better to just kind of give it some time, and I'll get into some other options that are really great if you kind of want the experience of owning a horse but you don't want all of the responsibility that comes with it. If you are leaning towards buying your first horse and maybe you haven't been riding for that long, just make sure that you are at least comfortable with caring for a horse. You know most of the basics. There really is no rush when it comes to owning a horse. If you are really passionate about the sport, I'm sure it will happen for you at one point or another in your life. You just have to give it time. So don't rush into it if you're not ready. Tip number two is to ask your trainer if they think you're ready to own a horse. Now, obviously, don't base your final decision off of what somebody else is telling you, because in the end, it really does come down to what you feel is right for you. But with that being said, you should take your trainer's advice into consideration, because they know you, they've seen you ride, they know, how you can handle horses, and they're gonna have a better understanding of if you're ready or not. Your trainer knows what it takes to own a horse. They know all of the responsibility that comes with it. So it really is great to ask for their opinion. And again, I'm not saying you have to listen to them if they say there's no way you're ready for a horse and you feel like you are. You are free to make your own choices. Just make sure that you're making the right choice, Whatever works best for you is what you should be focused on. Tip number three is to take at least a year of riding lessons. Now, this is just my personal opinion. This is what I think you should do if you are very, very new to riding and you want to own a horse. I think you should at least take a year, because I feel like it usually takes around a year for somebody to really figure out if they like riding or not. Sometimes passions that you may have in the moment can fade out over time, and that's completely okay. But if you're gonna commit to owning a horse, you have to make sure that you're in it for the long haul and that you really do love riding. And not only that, giving yourself a year taking lessons will build up the riding that you have, and it'll make you more experienced, and it'll give you more time to kind of learn and not just rush into something and feel super overwhelmed. Honestly, if you could do more than a year without buying a horse, I think that's even better, because again, it just gives you more time around horses and it gives you more time in the saddle. And I just think it's so important to really make sure that this is what you want and that this isn't just like a phase that you're going through, because I know there's people that they'll take lessons and stuff, and then after like a year they're like, it's not really for me, I don't really enjoy it as much as I used to. It's easy to leave riding if you don't own a horse, but if you are tied down to that commitment and you own a horse, it's just gonna make it a lot harder. You're gonna have to go through a lot of emotional trauma if you have to sell your horse or give it away. Time is like the theme of this video. You really just have to make sure that you are ready. You are 100% dedicated. You're ready. Just make sure, okay? I can't stress it enough. I also really recommend taking lessons after you purchase a horse. So if you do decide, you know, it's the right time, you want to get a horse, make sure that you continue taking lessons with your trainer, just so that you're still learning and you're still progressing in your riding. Especially when you own a horse and it's a new dynamic between you and your horse, your trainer can really help with that. So I really do think it's important to stick to taking lessons if you can. Another thing I want to mention really quick is leasing a horse. This is a great option if you feel like you want to kind of take it to the next step with your riding, and you know, you want some responsibility, but you don't want everything that comes with owning a horse, or you don't feel completely ready for that step. Leasing a horse can be so great because it shows you what goes into owning a horse, and it's also usually like half the cost of owning a horse. Typically you get like a couple days a week where you get to go ride the horse, and you're basically just kind of sharing the horse with the owner. But I think it's so great if you're not 100% ready, and I wish I had actually leased a horse before I bought my first horse. It would have helped a lot, and I think it would have saved me from a lot of emotional stress, because I did end up selling my first horse for a lot of reasons. See if your barn has any horses for lease, or maybe just ask around and see if you know of anyone who would be willing to lease their horse out to you, because I do think that that is a really great way to still kind of feel like you own a horse, but you don't have to pay for the vet bills most of the time, and you know, you're kind of just paying like a flat rate per month. Tip number 4 is to try and keep your horse at a boarding facility rather than on your own property. If you do have land and you know, you want to keep your horse at your house, obviously if that's something that you know you have the option to do, that's great. If it feels right, then do that. But I really do think it's great to keep your horse at a barn, just because, you know, if you're again like a new rider and this is your first horse, you're probably gonna have a lot of questions, and there may be certain situations that come up and you don't know what to do. So it's good to have other people around. It's good to ask your trainer questions and have them there to help you if you need it. It's not only good for you, but it's also good for your horse, because they're gonna get exposed to being around new horses and, you know, a new facility. Okay, I ran out of storage in the middle of filming that last clip, but like I was saying, if you don't expose your horse to new things, then it can become a problem down the road. Also, if you don't have any horses like on your own property and you're thinking of taking your new horse there and keeping them there, it can be really, really lonely for your horse if they don't have any other companions around. And I know it's something that definitely affected some of my horses that I used to have. When they were in like different stalls that were kind of like far away from other horses, I could tell that it created a lot of like sadness and loneliness for my horses, because, you know, they didn't have buddies around them and they were kind of secluded. So I think it's good to also just make sure that your horse is happy, and being around other horses, for the most part, usually always makes a horse happy. But if you are going to keep your horse at your house, make sure that you can, you know, easily communicate with your trainer and maybe have them come out every once in a while to give you lessons and just make sure that everything's running smoothly and that you're doing well. And tip number 5 is probably the most important tip, and it is to make sure that you can financially afford to own a horse, and make sure that you are, again, in the right position to own a horse, because like I said a million times prior to this, it's a lot of responsibility. I really recommend making like a budget or like some sort of financial plan. If you are just like purchasing a horse on your own, like if you're older and your parents aren't funding this, definitely make sure that you make some sort of budget. You could always make like a spreadsheet and keep track of what you're gonna have to pay for every month. And there's a lot that goes into it, you know, there's vet bills, checkups, annual exams, farrier costs, tack that you're gonna have to purchase, and you know, all that type of equipment, feed for your horse if you're feeding at home and not like at a boarding facility. If you are boarding at a boarding facility, you're gonna have to pay board. So like, take all those things into account and make sure that you're keeping track of it, and definitely do the math before you decide to buy a horse. Make sure it's something that you can afford every month. And I also really recommend, if you are purchasing a horse on your own, maybe make like a separate savings account making a savings account is so great because emergencies do happen, and sometimes, you know, we have to spend money on things that we aren't planning to happen. And especially with horses, like, they can get hurt so easily. Even if it's like the tiniest thing, you still want to be safe, and sometimes you have to call the vet out and you're not expecting to. And you know, vet bills are crazy expensive. Most vets also charge just to like come out to see your horse, so it's definitely a costly thing. Horses are not cheap, and I just want to make that clear for newer riders because it is a lot. I'm not trying to like scare you away from doing it or anything, but it is really smart to have some sort of like savings, emergency savings for your horse in case you do have any unexpected vet bills or anything of that sort. You'll be prepared, and it'll be a little bit less stressful once you come into that situation. If your parents are paying for your horse, if you're younger and you know your parents offer to get you a horse, I really recommend maybe just like offering to help pay for little things if you can. You know, like maybe you pay for the farrier bill every month, or maybe, you know, you just buy all of your own tack, whatever it is. Like, I think it's really smart to kind of help out because it's probably going to make your parents happy to see that you're putting effort into this and that you really are passionate about riding and that you do really want a horse and that you'll take care of the horse. But I think it'll also make you kind of like take care of your stuff more, because if you're spending your own money on something, you're gonna want to take care of it because you know what went into getting that, versus someone just buying you something. You know, you may not take the best care of it compared to if you bought it with your own money. If you are in a position where you can kind of help out every month, I would just offer, and that's just my opinion. I'm not saying every single person has to do that, but I do think it'll also kind of show you how much really goes into owning a horse and how expensive it can be. That is all of the advice I'm going to share in this video. If you want more advice on this topic, definitely let me know in the comments down below. My nose is getting really stuffy. Anyway, I know I sound kind of different in this video, but I really needed to film today. This is my only day off and I need to get a video up, so proud of myself for doing it. If you guys have any video requests, leave those in the comments as well. I always love hearing what you guys want to see. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe, give this video a like, and also turn on the notification bell if you want to be notified when I post new videos. With that being said, I hope that this video was helpful, and I will see you guys next week in my next video.